Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today I'll be watching a video titled Best of Ricky Gervais on Religion. I'm not sure whether the content will be, snippet of his stand-up where he will basically point out the ridiculous thing about religion or something else. But I do anticipate if it's from the stand-up, there might be some language issues. I'm not sure saying language translation. I mean curse words, right? Or that. And normally in terms of editing, I do not have time to edit videos, so I do not have the time to actually find out where to bleep. So viewers, what do you say? Discretion is advised, meaning that to avoid if you cannot hear those curse words, maybe you just avoid this video. You can skip this, see other videos that I have posted. So yeah, I'm not sure whether they will be, but knowing him, if it's his stand-up, those words will just flow, right? So anyway, without further ado, let's watch.
Oh, you must wake up in the morning and say, thank God for my amazing things that are happening. And you said, why would I say thank God? I'm an atheist.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd heard the word atheist on kind of public radio.
Well, I mean, yeah, there shouldn't even be the word, should there? If people didn't invent gods, I wouldn't have to deny them. And it's just... but it's like...
I'm assuming this is in England, and because initially the one that asked the question stated something about that is being said on radio, but I think generally speaking, English or England censor less than the US, right? Meaning in terms of this kind of things, language, etc. But I'm not sure.
I was told when I sort of started breaking America to not mention I was an atheist.
Really?
Oh, first thing I did. On every first thing I did. Why? What am I going to lose? Imagine not doing something because people hate you because of what you are. That's that's my only thing I've got. I'm a white, rich, middle-class man, but at least I'm hated for being an atheist. Do you know what I mean?
And have you
I'm oppressed. I'm oppressed in 13 countries I'd never go to anyway.
Okay, yeah, that explains it, because I think it's Richard Dawkins something, right? Institute or something. So I think then the audience here should be atheist, right?
Have you seen a change in your, over the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, about how atheism is perceived?
Well, I mean, you sort of do it. There's part of me that does it because I think I should. That there is someone being persecuted now that might, I can't change the world. But what I mean, maybe someone in a Western world that thinks they shouldn't come out because it's a bad thing. Because it's still a bad thing in Western.
Was that something flash to subliminary? What do you call it? Meaning, but I couldn't catch what was it.
Society. In America, they took a vote. America, right? Probably that big bit in the middle of America. But we were voted least trustworthy group, joint bottom with rapists. So there's still a thing about, I better not say I'm an atheist, it'll annoy my mum or dad or granddad or school. There's still that. So you do that. Some of it I do it as an intellectual pursuit, because someone asks me a question, I'd rather give the right answer than the wrong answer. I'd rather tell the truth than lie, because it's easier, I think the big thing, people think I run into churches and go, it's all fucking bollocks.
Okay, yeah, as I mentioned, there would normally be profanity language in his video, so sorry for that, and I'm not sure whether I would have the time and energy to edit the throughout this
I don't care. You know, I don't. But if I'm asked if I believe in God, I'll say no. I mean, you know, the tricky one is I did a film called The Invention of Lying, where I did a scene where thank you, 7 people saw that film, where my mother in that is dying, and it's because I'm the only person in the society who can lie. She says, I don't want to go to nothingness, and I go, there's not nothingness. It's a beautiful place you go, and you're young again, and I invent heaven, right? And that comes from the fact that when my mum was dying, I did face a dilemma. If she'd have said, do you think there's a God? That's a personal thing, and that's you know. So I just try and be honest, really. And the other thing is, if someone else's kid, 5-year-old, asks me, do I believe in God? I sort of think, what should I say here? And I say, well, I don't, but a lot of people do. What do you think? You know, I try and there's still a level of diplomacy. It's not always my place. You know what I mean? I don't. You know, my house, my rules. If someone asks me something on Twitter, I tell them the truth. It's, you know.
And there's also this strange thing that I get from faithful people. Why don't you believe in God? Well, that's a very strange question. Why don't you believe in God? Well, you came up with it. Why would I? As to saying I don't know, well, if you're agnostic about God in all his glory and in all his impossibility, you've got to be the same about Santa. You have got to say, I don't know. I want to say to an agnostic, what's your best guess there? Go on, have a punt. In fact, I don't ask agnostic. I don't say to agnostics, is there a God? I say, do you believe in God? Now, you can't say I don't know to that question, because if you say I don't know, you're an idiot. What you don't know if you believe or not. And I had this discussion with someone on Twitter, actually, and he said, well, that's not true, because I can ask you, am I wearing a red jumper? And you have no way of informing your guess. And that's true. But now ask me if you're wearing a red jumper that created the universe. Now I can have a little guess. No. No, you are not. It's mental.
Well, also for you.
Okay, that's interesting because he distinguished between atheist and agnostic, and I'm not sure whether I have heard that position before, where from atheist perspective, agnostic is something that need to be justified, because meaning if you don't know, you don't know, then you have to say the same thing about whatever else that people imagine and created, you know, from imagination. Now, I wonder though, in terms of rational and logical thinking, have anyone have any discussion? Because I think there are a lot of this conversation between him and someone else with regard to this topic. Although generally it is within the people that believe there's no God, right? But I think, was it he with Stephen Colbert, I think, right? Where people of the opposite view of one believing in God and him do not believe in God, and the what kind of evidence or proof or logical evidence, you can say, or logical what is the word? Logical argument to support that it is impossible or in an impossibility or improbability to have everything here without a creator. I'm interested to know how or what is his view towards that. I wonder whether that will be addressed in this video.
Because anyone who follows you on Twitter, and you have a huge following, they'll know that you are a pathological atheist, and therefore the thought of death is very final for you. For me, as a good Irish Catholic boy, it's the start of something new and glorious. For you, that's it.
For me, it's the end of something glorious, so I have to pack it all in. But you know, I'm not depressed about it. I don't want to die any more than anyone else. And I think there's this strange myth that atheists have nothing to live for. It's the opposite. We have nothing to die for.
You have more to live for.
We have everything to live for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have a more focused attention to life because you think it ends when you die.
I think it's precious. I think it's beautiful. I think the world is amazing. I love people, animals, art, every hobby. I can't believe my luck that I'm alive for these 70 or 80 years. Might be less. Boy, you know, I'm not long for this world. My nan used to say that. She lived till 83. I think it was 40 years ago going, I'm not long for this world.
What are you said the things you like. What are the things that really annoy you?
Only two things really, really make my blood boil, I suppose. I suppose in general, as I get older, injustice. Injustice quietly makes my blood boil. Either personal, social, political, you know, personal. I suppose the two main categories are religious intolerance, this arrogance that you think, you know, arguing over whose God is right sort of gets me down a little bit, you know. And I've got no problem with spirituality. I really haven't. You know, that's another myth. And I always try and make the difference clear between spirituality and religion. One is a very personal feeling, a journey, a hope, or whatever, a need, you know, a joy. And the other is an organised body that uses that for power and corruption in many cases. In many cases. And you know, I don't have either, but I suppose I think that when it affects me, that's when I have a say in it. And religion affects me. Religion's very real. Spirituality, it doesn't really affect me.
There's lots we don't know.
Yeah, when I think the context that what he said is because in many countries, because most countries. Is it most? I can say still most countries, even though it may be less and less now, but most countries have some religious background, be it countries from Muslim background, Christian background, what else is there? You know, at least that. Or some other things that people do not really call religion, but it is certain ism, is like communism or socialism, etc. Right? Meaning there's an idea that dictates how the country is run. And I think from my interaction with many atheists, and they happen to be from the US mostly. I think the issue is because how many laws actually kind of from their perspective favors the Christian. Hence, you know, hence they say that your religion directly impacted me, and hence I have an issue with that, right?
But we don't jump to conclusions. We don't know everything about the brain, but that's not to say that everything about the brain is unknowable.
We rejoice in not knowing, not because we don't want to know, but because we've got something to work on.
Absolutely, that's why people do puzzles. It comes back to hobbies. You do a puzzle because you don't know the answer yet.
And scientists are doing puzzles trying to find out the answers to the nature of reality.
Absolutely, of course, that's all we're doing. Science just tries to understand the world a bit more for its own ends.
And it's a wonderful process.
It's fantastic
Worth living for.
Because it should enhance mankind. You know, this ridiculous thing about science coming up with the atomic bomb. I don't know what argument that is. No. That's evil. Well, no. This other one as well. How many times have you heard someone say, some idiot fundamentalist say, well, Hitler was atheist?
Oh God. Yeah.
Well, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
There are good and bad atheists.
Yes.
There are good and bad people who believe in God. Yeah. But very few atheists kill in the name of atheism.
Exactly.
It's an irrelevance to me. I hate being labelled an atheist because it's not how I live my life. I don't live my life going around going, I'm an atheist, I'm an atheist.
No, exactly.
There's billions of other aspects to my life, why I do things. It just, when God's brought into the equation, I don't take that on board. I don't do anything because of God's watching me, or because I feel
God owns anything, or God's driving me. It's a strange word, and it's a strange label.
It is. Hitler actually wasn't an atheist.
No, I know, he was a Catholic, wasn't he?
Yes. Stalin probably was an atheist, but neither of them did their good things or their bad things. Not they didn't.
Of course not.
Neither of them did their bad things because they believed or because they didn't believe in God.
No, of course not. It was irrelevant. I remember, what
Okay, earlier, before I forgot, that he mentioned about science and it's a pursuit to understand the reality, etc. Right? I wonder how much of certain view is because of certain history where certain people of certain religion actually go against or see science as something negative or evil, right? Because in our history, in the history of mankind, there are certain people of certain religious group that approach science or see science as such. When I think for any true teaching of God, it naturally go hand in hand with the reality of the universe that God created, right? Hence the methodology of understanding the world, science, is basically hand in hand with what kind of teaching that God should send down to us, right? And of course, from Islamic perspective, you go throughout the history, we have always been seeing it as such, right? Yeah, so there's no contradiction between, science, meaning the reality of the world or the reality of the universe exposed by science will never contradict the teaching of God, because both come from the same source.
What were you on? Were you on a show in America when someone said, well, Stalin and Hitler were both atheists, and I think you said, well, they both have moustaches as well.
Yes.
It's just as relevant. A totally irrelevant statistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they're clutching at straws.
Yes.
They're clutching at straws. They don't like atheists. I mean, we're at the top of the tree. We're white, middle-aged, Western men, but we blew it because we're atheists. So we're the most hated, oppressed people on the planet. You can't run for president if you're an atheist.
Well, you can, but you won't get in.
Oh, well, right, fine. Yeah. That's cut. That's wrong.
I think that's the end, right? Oh, something more?
So we don't need God to be good.
We don't need God to be good, and even if we did, we haven't got him.
Quite right.
So there's
what
no
matters
point.
is what's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't choose to live, but I love it.
Me too. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure. Cheers.
Okay, yeah. Interestingly, because of the video is confined to conversation between atheists, it happened that I do not have that much things to comment, because in this video, quite interestingly, he didn't really go against religion that much, other than saying why he ended up in the position that he is in, right? Rather than, because in his stand-up normally he makes fun of things. Of course, it's for humor, etc. But one of the things that can become the butt of the joke is religion, and in that kind of setting, and what he says about, normally there would be more to discuss, because if you accept what he's saying and if you think it holds truth, it is directly against basically God or religion, right? But in this video, there's nothing much for me to comment. Quite interesting. I didn't anticipate that. Maybe because I haven't seen any of this show compared to his stand-up. So I did expect more of his stand-up to be in this But this is quite interesting because the title is Best of Ricky Gervais on Religion, and yeah, this is quite interesting because it's more of, it's not a set of a comedy set that he does, right? Rather, it is just conversation about things. Maybe that's why it's among the best conversation, I guess. Anyway, that's it for today. What do you think? I'm not sure if I have ever have any. Well, there are some of you that commented that state that you don't believe in religion, you don't believe in God, right? Even though most of my my comment section comes from Christians, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time.